Welcome back to the Paddle and Fin Podcast Network. We're brought to you by Yak Gadget for all your fine quality kayak fishing accessories. Go to yakgadget.com. Pelican cases, coolers, and lighting. Go to pelican.com. And the 153 Bait Company for all your hard and soft bait needs. Go to the153angler.com. So join with me as together we dive into the tips and techniques that will help make us better anglers out on the water. Welcome back, everyone, to the Bass Fishing for Noobs segment here on the Paddle and Fin Podcast. I am your host, Sean Lavery, and have a great show for you this evening. Continuing on with my kind of back to the basics series, looking at lures and stuff that I feel like the beginning angler should really take a look at. And in kind of my search, I came along the topwater category, and I kind of started digging through my tackle box, looking around for some of the lures that I started with on topwater that I really had success with almost right away. And one of the ones that stuck out to me right off the bat was the Heddon lures, like the Spook and the Torpedo. So I have a couple of those lures here with me tonight, but I reached out to Heddon on their Facebook page, and I was lucky enough to find our guest for this evening, Mr. Dustin Elder. So I'd like to welcome him to the show. Welcome, Dustin. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great, man. I'm really happy to be here to talk to you tonight. I'm glad you got a hold of us on Facebook, and we're able to meet up and talk a little bit.
Definitely, man. I love to sit and chat with anybody who will talk fishing with me for a while. So I appreciate you coming on. I know you have your hands full, literally. Which is why for those folks watching on YouTube, his camera is not on. He's got his arms full of a youngin', right? I guess.
Yeah, man. I've got my 3-month-old son here, and we're sitting outside on my porch because if I bring him inside, he will just scream bloody murder. So I've got him sitting out here with me, just bouncing him on my knee and listening to the crickets. So he's subdued at the moment.
3 months old and already loves the outside. That's awesome.
Yeah, man. If you live in southern Arkansas, you've got to be that way.
I hear that. Cool, man. Well, why don't you just give the folks a brief introduction to yourself, who you are, where you're from, and how you got into fishing and how you got started with Heddon?
Yeah, I'd love to. Well, my name's Dustin Elder. I work as the pro staff manager at Pradco Outdoor Brands, which is the parent company to brands like Heddon Lures, Booyah, Bandit, Norman, a lot of really cool fishing brands. And well, I started fishing originally with my dad and my grandpa growing up. My dad, he was a touring pro on a couple of different local circuits, and he fished a lot of Bassmasters Opens and things like that. And he basically just tried to burn me out of bass fishing, but didn't do a very good job of it because here I am today. And well, I started fishing tournaments. I got fishing tournaments at college at the University of Arkansas, and I realized this is what I wanted to make into a living. So I studying around, and my dad, he has a really great friend that is now the general manager of Pradco Outdoor Brands. And I reached out to him and said, I'd like to have an internship or anything that I can do. I'll sweep the floors there just to get a chance to do something. And he set me up with an internship about, probably 7 years ago. And I was a junior in college, and well, it turned into my full-time job after college. And here I am. I've been working with him for 5 years now, and I absolutely love it. It's not work. It's absolutely play every single day.
Oh, man, that sounds, I'm sure I can speak for a lot of our listeners who say and tell you that sounds like a dream job, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, it sure is. All I do is I work with different fishing lures. I get to, talk to our pro staff like Jason Christie, Stetson Blaylock, Micah Frazier, Luke Palmer, guys like that on a daily basis. So, it's just really cool, man.
How often do you get to go out fishing then?
I go quite a bit. I actually do a lot of our video content, and I help with all of our social media channels. That's why I was able to talk to you on our Heddon Facebook. I create content almost, I'd say at least once a week. I'm out on the water trying to get videos, pictures, any type of social media content. So I'm lucky to be able to do that.
That's really cool, man. So that sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's really great, man. I actually just recently, I decided to make a move down to Mount Ida, Arkansas, where I'm from. It's pretty much on the banks of Lake Ouachita, so that I can fish a little bit more and just work remotely. So just recently been able to do that.
Oh, okay. That's cool. I was just going to ask you that gives you the opportunity to work remotely, but where were you before that? Where is the the home base of your company?
Our main office is located in Fort Smith, Arkansas, so pretty much the northwest corner of the state.
Okay.
Yeah, about an hour and a half from where I am now.
Okay. Well, cool. That's cool that, it also gives you the flexibility to work, remotely and kind of, go where you need to go. So.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, my boss, he's really flexible. He allows me to, to help out with my wife here at home and take care of our 2 children, and then also go into the office a few days a week. So it's an awesome environment. I love the company.
That sounds amazing, man. Well, I'm sure you could talk a lot about a lot of different lures then. If are you involved with all of those different ones, like Booyah and all those, or do you kind of focus on Heddon or?
Yes, sir. I'm familiar with every single brand we have. I'm really close to brands like Heddon, Cotton Cordell, Norman, and Smithwick. Those are the ones that I work with the most. But I mean, I know a little bit about just every brand that we have.
Nice, cool. I might have to have you on again then for some of those other ones.
Yeah,
because,
of course, I'd love that.
But I figured tonight we'd talk about the Heddon one specifically. I know just from my experience with them, the Spook has been around for a long time. I was reading that Heddon itself had been around. That started in the 1890s.
Yes, it sure did.
That's crazy. Or I guess 1898. So it's one of the oldest lure company still producing lures in the U.S. So that's a lot of history there. That's cool.
Yeah, it's a really awesome company. It started in the late 1890s and still making lures today, and still making some shapes that we had in the 1930s and 40s, like the Zara Spook and the Torpedo and the Lucky 13.
Well, I guess if it ain't broke, don't change it, right? So if it's worked back then, it's going to work now. That's right. So, well, that's cool, man. So I guess most of those lures are focused on topwater, correct?
They sure are. We've got a few subsurface lures, but Heddon, it's a legendary brand based on topwater fishing.
Okay. So when you're looking, what makes you reach for a Heddon lure out of your tackle box? What conditions are you seeing, or what kind of what time of year? What are you focusing on when that's your go-to lure?
Well, I would say that the Heddon that most people are familiar with in like aggressive bass fishing would be the spook style topwater, which you hear a lot of guys talk about a spook. It's the tried and true walking bait that all the pros use. Everybody reaches for it, from the beginner angler to the veteran that's fishing the opens. I mean, that's what I would say I reach for most whenever I talk about Heddon lures, and that's anytime they're biting topwater. If the water's 55 degrees and up, I'll throw a spook. It's just a wonderful walking bait. It does well in all water types and conditions because we have great color patterns from bone all the way to the translucent patterns, and it works really great. Probably with I'd say the best conditions are when it's a little bit calmer, less ripple on the water. That's when I'll reach for a spook. But we have several other shapes in Heddon as well, like the Torpedo and the spitting image and the popping image that work great in other conditions where there's a lot of chop. So we've got it pretty much all covered for topwater season.
Okay, I was definitely curious. I have some of each of those. Like I have the Torpedo here with me. That's a little bit smaller. This one actually is called the Baby Torpedo that I have, I think.
Yeah.
And so what would make you go for that over? Are you just trying to match the hatch there or the forage?
I would say a Torpedo, that is the perfect beginner's topwater because you can't fish it wrong. You can throw that bait out in one of the 3 sizes that we have. You can pop it like a popper. You can chug it. It glides across the top with that little prop and makes a disturbance. You can even just straight reel it on top like a whopper plopper, and it'll catch fish. It's a proven fish catcher, and it's easy to work. So that's one that I will start with. That's one that I'll start my son on when he's 5 or 6 years old.
Okay. That makes sense. It's in my experience, I've always thrown it kind of along riprap shores, that kind of thing. What kind of environments are you looking to throw it in? Like, is that where you generally throw it? Or are you beating the banks with it? Or are you just looking for fish on maybe a fish finder or something? And
typically for that one, I'm just beating the bank. I'm throwing it up against vegetation, grass, any type of shoreline cover. It works really good up against the shoreline. That's why it's really great for a beginner, because it's an excellent pond bait, or someone that's just walking the banks, throwing on logs and stuff.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah. And that's generally, I think the first time I saw a video of it being used, it was being used kind of right along a riprap bank. And so that's what made me start throwing it there. And I've had a lot of luck with it, usually in the morning, when the sun's first coming up. That's usually when I have my most luck with it. But it's definitely something I find easy to do. It's nice because you can, to me, I feel like I can keep it in the strike zone longer than like a whopper plopper. I feel like, if you're burning a plopper through an area, it's just cast after cast because you're trying to keep it in that same area. Where with these, the walking baits like the Spook and the Torpedo, you can just sit there and, slowly walk it back and forth. And it's just staying right in that area where you can maybe elicit a strike a little bit better.
Yeah, you can make them mad with those two types of lures, and it's just a totally different action that a lot of people don't throw a torpedo anymore. So bass are kind of getting stupid to it again.
Yeah, I feel like the industry goes in cycles a lot, and what's old gets to be new again, and when people put it away for a while, and then all of a sudden somebody will start throwing it again and have a lot of luck because the bass just haven't seen it. And I think that's definitely true for the Torpedo. I've been starting to see more videos on YouTube when I did a few searches right before the show just to look to see what was out there, and there are definitely some people picking it up again. So I think it's going to pay off for those guys who give it a chance again. So
certainly will. It's excellent. I love it for kayak fishing, rivers. If you're fishing anywhere near smallmouth, it's a must-have.
Definitely. I was just going to say earlier this year we had a mayfly spawn. I live in Pennsylvania, right on the Susquehanna River, which is a smallmouth factory. And
for sure.
This year when we had the mayfly spawn, it seemed like Topwater was killing it because the smallies were looking up. They were watching the surface. So anything you could throw and just walk back and forth on the surface, make some commotion, they were nailing it. And so that's kind of where I cut my chops on it initially, and then started looking around for other places to throw it. As far as the equipment that you use, are you throwing it mostly on spinning setups, or do you throw it on anything on casting? I know they're mostly light lures. Now the Super Spook Jr I have here has some knock into it. You can hear it. So that one has a little bit more weight that you might be able to throw it on a bait caster, but most of my experience has been on a spinning rod.
Yeah, for a lot of the smaller type lures like the torpedoes and the popping image, things of that nature, I'll put them on a spinning rod with 8 or 10 pound monofilament line. But for the spooks or any of the walking bait varieties, I like to throw it on a medium action casting rod with 12 to even 20 pound monofilament because those baits catch really big fish. So I like to always be prepared.
Okay. I'm still getting used to bait casting. I'm obviously, that's where my noob title comes from. I'm better than I was when I started this podcast, but I'm still kind of on the newer end of using the bait caster. I started out with spinning stuff and, picked up the bait caster maybe a year and a half ago. So I still tend to lean towards spinning more, but I'm starting to learn more and more with the bait caster, getting better and better with them. I think I have like 4 or 5 now. So picking up, but I just definitely tend to lean towards spinning rods, but I will have to try that. Now the biggest one I have is the Super Spook Jr. So I understand there's quite a few sizes up from that. So I imagine when you're getting up in those bigger sizes, then, definitely you're getting into casting rod territory at that point.
Yes, sir. Yeah, when you get into the one knocker spook or the super spook that weigh around an ounce or a Zara spook, you definitely need to be, packing a little bit more heat with your gear.
Yeah, and definitely upping your line sizes from kind of the stuff that I tend to use.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I'll even go to braid if I'm using the super spook or the one knocker, just, because you can zip that thing out there so far.
Right. Braid definitely casts. Do you usually do straight braid then, or do you do braid to a leader?
I typically, if I'm throwing braid on Topwater, it's just braid tied directly to it.
Okay. And are you running like braid to match the water, or are you running like high vis braid? We just did my last week's show was all on fishing line, so we talked a lot about the different types of fishing line and different applications. So it's fresh in my mind. But
yeah, honestly, I don't go too crazy when I'm throwing a topwater with braid. I just throw plain old 30-pound Power Pro up to maybe 50 if I'm throwing an even bigger bait. Just old green Power Pro braids that I like to throw.
Now, these are treble baits, so do you tend to keep them away from cover, or you cast right up against cover and you do pretty well just walking them away from it?
Oh, I try to put everything right up against something. I mean, even if I'm throwing a spook up against the bank, the closest I can get it to a stump or a lay down or the grass, anything like that. I mean, I'm trying to put it right there.
I think that was another reason why I started throwing it on the river, is because I could walk it over top of the grass and not get it hung up in the grass like a lot of my other treble hook baits would do. It worked really well for just walking it, and bass would explode out of that grass and just annihilate it. So I feel like that's definitely a good technique for it. Any bait that I can use that can walk over the grass without snagging it, especially because if you have treble hook, you're going to triple your odds of, getting a hook in the fish. But it also tends to hook a lot of grass if you're down in the grass. But when you can walk over top of it, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, man, for sure.
So the bigger baits that I'm not as familiar with, can you talk a little bit about those and kind of when you reach for those?
Yeah, of course, man. Well, I'll just go through the spook varieties. We have
perfect. Yes.
We have the Zara Puppy, which is a small 3-inch topwater, weighs about 1/4 of an ounce, and it goes up to a Zara Spook, which is a 4.5-inch topwater. Both of those are silent, and they're built in an older style with some traditional metal hook hangers and older style hooks. And then we have what I'd call your professional series. We've got our Super Spook series, which comes in 4 different sizes. It comes in a Super Spook that's a 5-inch lure that weighs 1 ounce. We have the One Knocker Spook that's 4.5, weighs 3/4. We have the Super Spook Jr, which is 3.5 inches, weighs 1/2 ounce. And then we have new for ICAST 2021, we have the 3-inch long Super Spook Boyo, which weighs 3/8 of an ounce. It's pretty much just a downsized Super Spook Jr. But for the bigger sizes, like the One Knocker, the Zara Spook, or the Super Spook, it's all about matching hatch, man. If you're seeing big gizzard shad, or if you're seeing bigger threadfin shad, 3.5, 4 inches long, sometimes it's a good pick to pick up one of those larger topwaters and see if you can get a bigger bite. Or if you're around schooling fish and you're fishing a tournament, and you're just traditionally catching smaller fish on the Super Spook Jr or a smaller walking bait, tie on that big one, throw it in there and see if they'll hit it, because you never know, a bigger fish will always eat a bigger bait traditionally. Those are about the 2 situations where I'll pick up the biggest models.
Okay. But otherwise you tend to lean for the middle of the road and up or downsize depending on how you're doing.
Yeah, well, and in my part of the country, around the Ouachita Mountain area, Lake Ouachita, Hamilton, the Gray, all these, we have really small bays, so I tend to stay with the Boyo and the Junior, just because of that's what I get bid on here.
Right. Now I even here in PA, I tend to not go super crazy. The biggest baits I'll throw are generally 5 to 6 inches long. Basically, I have a few of the bigger ones, but I either through not giving it enough time or just the environment, I don't have a ton of luck or confidence in them. But as I go smaller, my confidence definitely builds. So
yeah, same here, man. People that live on like Lake Fork, Sam Rayburn, or, some of the bigger bodies of water, they can go for those bigger ones. But I just like the smaller walking baits.
Right, for sure. And but like you said, they still can catch big ones. I've seen so many pictures online of people who are catching huge bass on even the smaller lures, the smaller like Torpedo and stuff. I know a guy from my local lake who said his biggest bass came on a Torpedo right along the bank. So
yeah, I mean, elephants do eat peanuts. So yeah.
That's a good line. I'll have to remember that one.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Cool. You want to talk a little bit about the hardware that's on the baits? I know you said like the smaller baits have kind of an older style um, hooks. What's different between them and the bigger baits?
Well, I would say like we have the two models called the Zara Spook and the Zara Puppy and the Torpedo series. They all have a stainless steel hardware. They don't have like new style hook hangers and split rings. They rather just have traditional hook hangers where they don't have as free of movement. That's just because they're built in that older style like they were originally. We just kind of put better components on them. They've got good sharp hooks and everything, but it's not like the traditional black nickel hooks you see today. But with the Super Spook series and all the models that encompass it, we have premium black nickel hooks, split rings, good hook hangers, quality components built into them because you're paying a little bit more for those. But you need a little bit more whenever you're fishing a bait that costs a little more and you're going after some different fish.
Right. You want to make sure you have the hardware included to pin those fish and not lose your bait too at the same time. So
yeah, for sure, man. And we offer all these models in a saltwater version as well, and they come with stainless steel hooks for fishing in the Gulf Coast or anywhere like that.
I was just I forgot about that. I was looking at a website that had all of the lures, and I didn't realize there was as much saltwater as well. But it makes sense. And those, I guess, would have stainless steel hooks so they don't rust. Is that correct?
Yeah, they got stainless steel hooks, and they've got a little bit stronger hardware within them. So toothy critters and stuff like that, when they bite a hold of them, they're not going to bust all that plastic.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. How about I saw, like you said, you have the chugging or the chugging spooks and stuff. What makes you go for those? You also have some poppers. The pop and image looks like. When would you opt for those over a regular spook?
Oh, the Chugging Spook's really cool. What it is it is just like a Super Spook or a Super Spook Jr., but it has a cupped out mouth. Same body, same everything, but it's got a cupped mouth to make it more like a pencil popper action. And it just provides, whenever it's walking along like a spook, it just picks up a little bit more water, in case you got, a little bit more disturbance on the water, you're fishing around heavy wind or anything of that nature, and you need to bring some fish up and see the bait. That's whenever I'll pick it up. If I'm fishing, in the storm front or something of that nature, I'll pick up that Chugging Spook.
Okay, when there's already a little more chop on the water, and you need to kind of distinguish between just the chop and your bait.
Yeah, because whenever you're fishing, heavy winds and there's quite a bit of waves going on, when you're fishing a spook, it's just gliding over the top of them. But
Right.
you need a chugging model to be able to kind of dig some water and just make bass look up and see it.
Gotcha. And I was looking on this. Looks like there's a Lucky 13 too. That's a little different. That has a bigger cupped face.
Yeah. The Lucky 13 is actually the oldest lure in our entire brand. It's been around since the 1930s. It is just a really cool wooden lure. It's built with that extra long lip on it to be a chugger. It's not a popper or anything. What it's for is for casting out and just, with a long sweep of your rod tip, you chug it underneath the water. It'll dip and dive and push a lot of water.
Yep. I was just gonna share my screen here. I think because I have it here. If I can show. Whoops. Let me see. Current tab. Is this it? Whoops. That's the wrong one. Let me switch here. I was going to try and go through some of these on this site. Let me see. Got to find the right tab. Sorry, folks. Let's see if I can remove this stop screen. There we go. I'll share screen. There it is. So there is what the Lucky 13 looks like for the folks watching on YouTube. So you can see it has a much bigger cup face, and it actually is wooden still. Still made out of wood.
Yep, it's cool. Still made out of the same exact components as it was.
That's awesome. Talk about going old school, but man, if it works, it works. That's pretty cool.
For sure, man. It's a really great bait, and we've actually got a good video on our Heddon YouTube. It's of me fishing the lure in the up in Dowagiac, Michigan, where Heddon started. I fished it in the original pond that Heddon had actually began. So it's a really cool video if anyone wants to check it out.
And one thing I wanted to ask you, and a lot of our listeners might already know, but when you're walking a bait, like what is your cadence like? Are you mixing it up, letting the fish tell you what you how they want it? You start off with a jerk pause, or walking it, or you just constantly walking it back to the boat?
Oh man, I have it put into like 3 schools of thought with how I try to fish it, and I start out the same way every time. I'll start out by just walking it slow, casting it out, letting the ripples dissipate on the bait. Just doing a slow, solid walk, maybe stopping it every now and then. If that doesn't work, I'll speed it up a little bit. If that doesn't work, if I'm fishing around schooling fish or casting really far, I'll walk that thing as fast as possible and apply just a couple of short pops. But I kind of let the bass tell me, if they're moving on it good when it's going slow, that's the way I take it for the day. But I'll move through those 3, pretty much every time I'm out on the water fishing it.
Okay. And do you keep that same kind of retrieve with like the poppers or the torpedoes, or I know you said with the torpedo you can kind of straight retrieve it like a whopper plopper almost, or?
With the torpedo, I like to do typically a lot slower action than I do with the spook. I'll just kind of pop it like I would a pop R, let the rings dissipate around it, pop it again, let the rings dissipate, pop it again. And, if the fish are a little more aggressive, I'll pop it kind of quick, and only give a second in between. But most of the time I'll give it 3 to 5 seconds in between every pop.
You're letting the rings from the pop go away before you start popping again.
That's traditionally how I like to do it, because that bait, you're throwing it up against shallow cover and the bass can get spooked really easy. So I like to do it that way.
Gotcha. No, that's good. Definitely a good tip. I feel like I might have been working that a little faster than I should have been hearing that. So
yeah, man, slow is the best with the torpedo.
Okay. And how about the spook? I guess is the similar. You like where you're just you're doing that slow cadence to start and then pick it up a little bit until you figure out what speed they want.
Yep. I always just start slow because that seems to be the most natural approach. And then if that's not working, I try something a little different, go a little faster, and I keep going faster until I can figure it out.
Gotcha. Cool. I'm trying to think of anything else I wanted to cover with those. Anything else you can think of with fishing the spook or the torpedo that sticks out in your mind that somebody just picking it up might need to know?
Not really, man. I mean, that gives you a pretty good overview of how to pick it up and start fishing with it.
Perfect. That's cool. Well, yeah, that's kind of the nuts and bolts of what I wanted to talk about tonight. So I figured I'd give you a chance. Do you have anything you can share that's in the works, or anything you're excited about that's coming?
I can give a little piece of that. We just started just recently. We've got a new variant in the torpedo line, and we got a few new variants in the spook line that we're working on, and that's about the most I can share right now.
Nope, that's cool.
They're going to be really innovative and cool. So I'm really excited. Maybe in the next year or 2 years we'll have a few new additions that can really catch a lot of fish.
I feel like you have offerings pretty much across the board for Topwater that you're going to be able to find something that'll work on a given day. If you have a few of those different lures in your tackle box, you should be able to find something that'll work. If Topwater's working, you guys have something that'll cover how it's working.
Oh yeah, we sure do. I mean, you can check us out on lurenet.com and type in Heddon Lures on there, and I think we got something that everyone from everywhere across the country can fish with.
Awesome. Do you have any other social media you want to shout out? I know I found you on Facebook. Where else do you post your content to?
Well, we got Heddon Lures on Facebook, Instagram, and then we also have at lurenet.com. We have a Facebook and Instagram for them as well. I recommend going to Lurenet, signing up for our newsletter. You'll get a lot of really cool blogs featuring Heddon, a lot of videos, support of that nature, and some pretty cool discount codes and things to order some product.
That's definitely cool. Yeah. So guys, listeners, go on and check that out. Lurenet.com. That's actually the site that I had pulled up and was kind of looking through the pictures. That's where that Lucky 13 came from. So anything else you wanted to share with the folks, or if you're, we got about a half hour in, so that's pretty good.
Nothing I can think of right now, man.
Awesome, dude. Well, again, I appreciate your time, taking the time to come on and share with us. I'll definitely reach out to you again with maybe some of those other brands that you guys represent, because you guys got a lot of good baits for those different names that you mentioned, and definitely excited to hear some more about some of those if you're down sometime.
Yeah, anytime, man. Just, shoot me an email and let me know, and I'm sure I can make some time available to speak again. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, man. All right, guys. Well, again, go on to lorenet.com. Check out Heddon Lures. Give them a try if you've never tried them. They're definitely fish catching machines, and from the beginner the whole way up to the pros, like you said, they're going to put fish in the boat for you. So give them a try. So, all right, Dustin. Well, thanks again, man. It's been awesome. Everybody listening, this has been the Bass Fishing for Noobs segment on the Paddle and Fin podcast, where we bring you the techniques, the tricks, and the tips to help you rip more lips.
Thanks for tuning in to another killer episode on Paddle and Fin. Don't forget to go check out our website at paddle_n-fin.com. Don't forget to check out the YouTube channel at Paddle and Fin. If you got a question, comment, want to hear from a future guest on a future episode, feel free to email us at paddle_n-fin@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Paddle and Fin on Facebook and Instagram. Shout out to our show supporters, Angler. The Angler button and app just makes for a better time on the water and creates a virtual logbook for every fishing outing out on the water. Shout out to Rocktown Adventures, located in northern Illinois, for all your kayaking, camping, and hiking needs. Shout out to Jig Masters Jigs. When in doubt, get the jig out. Go to jigmasters.com